Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to give you guys an update on how the housing is going. I told you guys last video that I was going to make that a priority. God has really been speaking to me about using my faith to move mountains, and so that's what I have really been doing. There are two scriptures that I have been standing on. So we talked last time about the struggles that I was having with the housing, the issues with the houses not being clean, and feeling like the, property managers or property management companies were like taking advantage of people, and just really some, deal breakers that I just felt like, I didn't want to deal with. And I was telling you guys that I was going to take that to God and just kind of let him handle those things. And so that's what I did. So I made a list of things that, I felt like, okay, God, these are the things that I want. Just kind of prayed about it and left it in the hands of the Lord. Shortly after I did that, I was just continuing to check, for new houses, because like I told you, I had found the development that I wanted to be in. And so I had set up a search just to search for properties in that development. And so one popped up, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And so, but I wasn't going to go and look at it because it was way more expensive than the ones I had been looking at. And I just felt like, I just felt like it was a little bit too much to ask for. And so I just wasn't going to go look at it. But it's like the Holy Spirit said to go look at it. Like, basically what happened was I was doing some other things to try to find a property, right? So the Lord has spoke to me both rent and own. He spoke both of them. And so I didn't know if he meant like rent to own or like what he meant. And so I had originally had my search set up just for rentals. And then I turned around and did a search for, ones that were for sale as well. And started reaching out to those homeowners individually. And so there was like a week that went by from when I was telling you guys I went to all these rentals, and I was just like so frustrated. And there was a week of just me, sending letters to homeowners of properties and doing that kind of thing. And so when this property came up, it was like I was kind of like on autopilot, and I just sent a message to the realtor and just didn't even think about the fact about like how expensive it was or anything. I just sent it thinking that they were just going to be like, I don't know, just thinking that it just was going to fall through, because I was just like, it's too expensive. And, thinking they weren't going to get back to me, because I was asking them were they willing to do rent to own, and it was a rental. And so I was just expecting them to be like, no, they're not going to do rent to own, and just, that would be the end of it. And so I just didn't really think anything of it. And so I sent the message to the realtor, and I had sent like sent messages to 3 different realtors, and they were for, some were for rent and some were for own. And so a realtor, I was on the phone with one of my clients, and a realtor texted me, and I didn't get the text because I was on the phone. Well, as soon as like we were getting ready to hang up, there was somebody beeping in. And so I click over, and there's a realtor on the phone about that property. Now, again, these are properties that are all in the same neighborhood. They all have the same street name. So I had no idea which one he was talking about. So I just was like, okay, yeah, sure. Thinking, I'm going to set up the time to go look at it. So after I get off the phone with him, we set up a time to go look at it the next day. And I get a call from the realtor that texts me, and he is asking about the exact same property. And I'm just like, so I asked him, I'm like, well, do you have 2 people working on this? I said, because somebody has already contacted me about this property. He tells me, y'all, I cannot make this stuff up. He tells me, well, you're going to need to call the other guy back and tell him that you already talked to somebody, and that I'm going to take care of you, and you don't need his help. And I was just like, okay, so what is happening, right? You guys are 2 realtors working on the same property. What? That never happens. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? So I'm totally confused, and I'm rolling my eyes at this guy because I'm like, so basically you want me to lie? You want me to call him back and tell him that I already talked to you when I didn't already talk to you? So I was giving the guy the side eye because I'm like, I literally just talked to you. I don't know you from Adam. And even if I did, why are you asking me to lie? What are you doing? So I just was like totally flabbergasted with this guy. And so I'm asking him my normal questions, right? Which is like, are they willing to budge on the price of the rent? Or, are they willing to do rent to own? Just asking my normal questions, which are normally questions that, they're going to say no to, and you just keep moving. So, of course, he didn't have the answer to any of them, whereas the first guy did and was still willing to show me the property. Like, he was basically saying they're not willing to do rent to own. They're not willing to budge on the cost, but he still wanted to show it to me. So normally when you're trying to like get them to give you a deal or whatever, they don't want to show you the property after that because they feel like you're cheap and you're not their target customer. So they're just like, don't want to talk to you anymore after that. But this guy was still willing to show it to me. So I had set up a time to talk with him. To see the property with him. So then this other guy calls and I'm like, I ask you my questions and you don't know. You told me you have to call me back. Okay, that's one strike. And then in addition to that, you right off the bat are like, I need you to lie. That's 2 strikes. So I was getting bad vibes from this guy. So I get off to my client and I have to go pick up my daughter, and I just don't have time for his shenanigans. So I didn't have time to call the other guy back, and I wasn't going to call the other guy back anyway. And so on the way to pick up my daughter, I was just like, Lord, I don't like the way this second realtor is rolling. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that he's like trying to lie, and I don't know what's going on with this property because I've never dealt with 2 realtors, trying to show the same property. But one of the words that the Lord had gave me was, what if they need you and you don't need them? And so to go from realtors barely calling me back and, I asked them one question and they're just like, no, to everything, to 2 realtors fighting over me. It was like I couldn't, dismiss the fact that the Lord had just given me that word and that I got 2 realtors fighting over who gets to show me the property. So stay with me, guys. I know you guys are probably thinking, oh my gosh, get to the point. But this is literally how it is walking with God. Sometimes you just are going off of the last word that he gave you, and you're just trying to proceed with that. And you have no idea what is going to be your next step, what kinds of things you're going to move, run into, what kinds of things are going to happen. And you just kind of have to take the information that's in front of you and just go based on what you already know. You have to operate with character and integrity. When things just don't look right or don't feel right. You got the discernment of the Holy Spirit. And so you're trying to juggle all these things and still listen to what God has said and still walk with him. So this is literally what it's like walking with him. You guys are witnessing me do this in real time. I, just prayed about it and was like, God, I want you to handle this because I'm not trying to block my blessings and piss off, a realtor. But at the same time, I don't want to work with somebody that's like asking me to lie because your character and integrity are sus, and I don't really want to work with you. So sure enough, after I picked my daughter up and was on my way back home, I get a call from both of them. They're both sitting in the office together. And of course, the shady realtor is like, well, we realized that we both talked to you on the phone, and I told him I talked to you and you were going to call him and tell him you didn't, that you already talked to me first. And I was just like, so basically, because I wouldn't lie, you lied on me. I'm like, what are we doing? So I tell them both, I'm like, listen, what happened is, the shady realtor called me first. Texted me first, but I talked to the other realtor first, which was the truth. Like, yes, you did text me first, but I didn't talk to you first. So don't try to tell him you talked to me first, because that's not true. And I was like, yes, you did ask me to call him, but I had already, set up a time to meet with him. So I just didn't know what to do about that. And so basically it was crickets after that, because what I can imagine was happening is that the realtor that had his head on straight was probably looking at the shady realtor like, really? You tried it. And so after that, it was just like crickets for a little while. And then all of a sudden, the shady realtor was like, are you going to still go meet us at the property? I mean, go. Are you going to still be there at such and such time to go look at the property? And I was like, if somebody's going to show it to me. And he was like, well, somebody will definitely be there to show it to you. And we just love it at that. So at this point, I didn't know who was going to show me the property, but I just kept praying. I was like, Lord, I'm not trying to do it with a shady realtor. So I go the next day, and it's the good realtor, by the grace of God. And he's very, very nice. And the property is immaculate. When I say this property was worth every penny that they were asking for it. The property was the largest one I've seen out there. Because I remember I told you guys, I went and saw 4 different ones. And I saw a really, really small one, a medium one, and then 2 large ones. Well, this one was bigger than both the large ones. So it was huge. So it was definitely, it made sense that it was priced more because of the square footage. But on top of that, it looked like the property was meant like they wanted to do Airbnb with it, because it was already decorated. It was already furnished, completely furnished down to the silverware. So, and they were renting it furnished. And so here I am seeing, these are the things that the Lord has been speaking to me. He spoke to me furnished. He spoke to me that, they need me. He spoke to me, like us not having to compromise. And then on top of that, I asked the guy what the application fee was, and he was like, it's only $50. So remember, I was telling you guys, one of the deal breakers I had was that they were trying to charge me these ridiculous amounts to apply, and the application fee was only $50. So that was a huge, huge thing. Okay, well, in addition to that, one of the things I was praying about was favor. I had favor because remember I asked you guys, I asked them over the phone if they were willing to do any, like, budge with the rent. And they both told me no. Well, when I got ready to go look at the property, he was like, well, I called the landlord, and he said that he's willing to go down $500 if I don't want the furniture. So like, and then I asked him, I was like, okay, well, what if we want some of the furniture, right? Because ideally, we would take the living room and kitchen and stuff furniture, and then don't use the furniture in the bedrooms. Or, I would keep the furniture in my bedroom, but my daughter's, she didn't want that furniture. So, but something along those lines, so I wouldn't have to like completely, pay $500 for the furniture per month, because that is steep. But, still have it to where it's furnished. So at this point, now he's saying, I can take it to the, landlord. He's open to, discussing it. So now I'm starting to see some favor. Okay. In addition, the realtor that showed us the place had his head on straight. He had his head completely on straight. The house was, like I said, immaculate. It was not dirty in any way. It was completely not just furnished and decorated. And decorated nice. And he actually showed us the property. He wasn't like overbearing. And then he also had like, he was able to answer all of my questions. None of this, I don't know if it heats by gas and all that stuff. He knew all of his stuff. And then on top of that, he also had, one of those like packets that they give you that has like all the property details, which tells you, what it heats by, what the security deposit will be, the stuff that you need. So I tell him all of that. Okay. In addition, one of the requirements is that you cannot have any pets. It's like a no pet zone. Well, I told you my daughter has those guinea pigs. And so I was asking him about that. And he was like, well, I don't know. I have to ask the realtor. Not the realtor, the homeowner. So we look at the place. Of course, we're in love with the place. My daughter is like in love with the place. And because of like the place being so nice, we're able to get some of the deal breaker things that we wanted, which was like I wanted a bigger square footage for my daughter's room, because that's one thing she really wanted. And it was a bigger square footage for her room. I wanted the bigger driveway, but we were willing to compromise on that. It wasn't like, that huge of a deal. And then she wanted her own bathroom, but when she saw that it was already furnished and clean, she was just like, I'm totally fine with that. So we were able to get all the things that we really wanted if we were able to get that place. Okay. So we went to the place, we liked it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So now the issue is, how are we going to pay for this place? Okay. Because even if I would have applied for the cheapest one I saw, which was like $800 cheaper than this place, I still would have had to have a miracle. Okay. And so the way I saw it was, here God is telling me I need to use my faith to move mountains. If I'm going to move a mountain, I might as well move a big mountain and not a small one. And so I was like, I certainly could tell them, I don't want the furniture, to try to make the mountain smaller, or I could use my faith to move the big mountain. I really wanted to do furnished because it's very expensive to move. And because of the situation that we're in, I have a storage room that is full of all of our stuff, because when we got evicted, it was like, we had to move quick, and where were we going to put our stuff? It's not like we got evicted and then had a house to go to. We got evicted and then moved in with family in an apartment we didn't even have a room. We were literally on a blow up bed in the living room. So I didn't have anywhere to put our stuff. And here I had a 1,200 square foot house with, completely furnished. So I had to move all of the stuff in storage, and I had to get rid of some of the stuff. I didn't even have enough room to keep everything. So I have the storage room that's full of stuff. In addition to that, because we have been living with family for so long, we also have a lot of stuff that we've acquired over the 4 years that we've been living with family. That's a lot of stuff to have to move and pay movers to move. In addition to that, once you get the stuff moved, now you got to deal with getting the stuff organized and going through and seeing what stuff you actually need and what stuff you don't, and then also dealing with actually decorating the home. And there may be a season in my life where those things wouldn't be that big of a deal, but this is not that season. Okay. This is not that season. I love DIY. I love, decorating, and I'm all for organizing and shopping and those kinds of things. But I'm in a season in my life right now where I just want to start meeting my goals. I want to get back to being able to do all the things. And so I just want to, be able to go right to it and hit the ground running. And so the ability to do that, you just don't have that ability when you're having to furnish a place. I've moved, like I said, a lot of times in my life, and it's so common to move, and then, you end up just getting the house livable so that you can continue life. And then a year later, you still got boxes that ain't been unpacked. I just don't have the patience for that right now. I don't have the patience for that. And I know that in the season of my life that I'm in, that's what would end up happening. Half of my stuff would be not unpacked. Actually decorating the house would probably be way down the line, like a year. And I just don't, y'all know my story. I've been living in chaos for so long. I don't want to do it again. So that's one of the reasons why I was telling God, I really would prefer to have something furnished, because you just move right in. And so the other thing is that the Lord has spoke the word about, the fact that the place was meant to be an Airbnb. And that's exactly what it looks like. Because I know y'all, I don't know if I told y'all, but basically when we were going through all of this child custody stuff, and there was just such a hard season because we were living where we were living, where we did not have a room and we just had a blow up bed. And I was dealing with this toxic situation, like I was telling you guys about, from my childhood, and just a mess. It was, we very often did not want to be in that house. Okay. And so whenever we had a time of just a few days where she didn't have to go do a visit, and we didn't have anywhere to go or anything to do, which was rare. I would book the Airbnbs, and most of the time it was just like a neighboring city. It wasn't far, but I would just book them, and a lot of times it was just for one night, but it was just something to allow us to take a break from the chaos. Like, it was just my way of trying to make things easier, trying to give us a little space of peace to try to regroup and go back to what we were having to deal with. And so I said all that to say, I've been in a lot of Airbnbs and I know how they do stuff. I know how they have like a little pantry with like supplies that the cleaning staff can refill, shampoos and toilet paper and stuff like that. I know how they have a lot of towels and rags and sheets that are not, you wouldn't have in a normal home, and how they will have like the sheets that are dirty on top of the washer, because that's what they tell you to do. Whenever you're leaving, a lot of times they'll just say, put the sheets in the washer or put them on top of the washer or something like that. So all of these things are things that I saw in the house when I was there, that it was meant for an Airbnb. And so there were all these things that God has spoken over the years that I'm starting to see checking off. However, I'm still seeing, the mountain's not moved yet, right? We're seeing some, maybe an earthquake is about to come down, but we haven't seen it move just yet. I left the place and I prayed, because I'm like, okay, God, do you want me to apply for this place? Because in the natural, there is no way I should be applying for a property that is that expensive. Okay. In the natural, it does not make any sense. But if the Lord instructed me to do it, then okay, we have no problem. We're good. Oh, I was asking God. So we went to go see this place on a Saturday. I think Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday was when the Lord confirmed that I should apply. So on Tuesday, I applied for this place. Now, mind you guys, okay, the prerequisites, remember I told you the word the Lord gave me was, don't worry about whether or not you can meet their qualifications. Worry about, can you meet mine? But here's the deal. Here's what their qualifications were, just so you know. Okay, you had to make 3.5 times the rent. I didn't even make 2 times the rent. Okay. They wanted to do a background check and credit check. Okay, both of those would have failed, because my background check, because of what I dealt with the family court system, would have shown felony, and the credit check would have shown you got evicted. So in the natural, I would not have been able to meet any of the qualifications. In addition, again, we got guinea pigs, and it says no pets. So in the natural, I would have been straight away not approved for this property. Okay, so again, the Lord's telling me to apply. So I applied. Okay, so about a day and a half, 2 days later, I get an approval. The lady calls me and tells me that I've been approved for this property. Now, when they run their background check and credit check, whatever, you can check that box that says, I would like to get a copy of it. Okay, they sent me a copy of it before she approved me, and I didn't even look at it, because I was like, I can't have anything that's going to mess up my faith, so I'm just not even going to look at it. So I didn't even look at it. But I was believing God. I was literally speaking it. I was believing God. And I was praying, and she called me and told me I got approved. Okay, so then I go back and look at this report, and the report has nothing on my background check, crystal clear, and it shows no eviction on my credit check. Okay, gone. Now, where did they go? I have no idea, because when I was applying for properties before, I had done that background check, credit check, and just kind of had a copy for whenever people would ask for it. And it had them both on there. And that was not even a year ago. And now all of a sudden it was nothing. It was crickets. So there's that. But again, even with those being clear, I still didn't meet the income requirements and was still approved. Okay. So that just lets you know, you put your faith out there, and we can move mountains with our faith. Okay. So then the lady tells me, I asked her, I was like, okay, I don't know if you guys know anything about these security deposit companies. One of the things I researched is that there are security deposit insurance companies that basically insure your deposit for the landlord. So what they'll do is they will charge the renter a certain amount per month, small amount, it's like $30. And it's basically insurance, and you pay them every month, and they will insure the security deposit when you move out. Because remember, basically the security deposit is just a scam. It helps nobody but banks, really. But when you pay your security deposit, it goes in an escrow account, and the landlord's not allowed to touch that. And so they're not benefiting from it, and you're not benefiting from it, and your money is just sitting there for however long until they decide to give it back or until you move out. So it's just basically you paying a large sum of money when you already have a boatload of expenses when you have to move into a place anyway for nothing. Okay. Now, yes, if you move out and you trash the place or you don't pay your rent or whatever, it helps the landlord because they at least have that if you decide to skip out and don't pay them anything else. So that does help them at move out time. However, it does not help anybody in the meantime. So what the security deposit insurance companies do is that you pay them every month and they insure the deposit for the landlord, meaning that if you move out and you don't, pay your rent or you trash the place and they need to pay for damages, then the security deposit insurance company will pay your deposit straight to the landlord, no questions asked, and then they come after you for that cost. Let's say my security deposit is $1,200. I would pay the security deposit insurance company like $10 a month or whatever, and then when I get ready to move out, if I move out and there's no damages or anything, then there's nothing for anybody to pay. Bing bam boom, we're good. If I do move out and I got to pay damages, then they would pay the security deposit amount to the landlord, and or the damages amount, whichever one's lower, would have to pay the security deposit insurance company back. Okay, so it's a win-win for everybody because the tenant doesn't have to come out with this huge sum of money when they're already trying to get all of their money together for the move-in. And then it's helpful for the landlord as well because you're not, stuck not being able to have a security deposit or whatever, which in a lot of states is required. And so this also helps meet the requirements. So it's a win-win for everybody. Okay, now there are some property management companies that are starting to use these property management companies, but not all of them. And it's still the minority of them that are using them. Most of them have no idea what you're talking about when you bring it up. And so I brought it up to this lady after she told me I got approved. And of course, she had no idea what I was talking about. So she was like, well, we're willing to look into it if you'll send me the contact information of these companies. So I sent her the contact information of the companies. But I'm annoyed because when I try to look up the contact information, they don't have a phone number. And that's a problem. I already knew off the bat that was going to be a problem because these property management companies, they don't have time for this. They don't have time for you to have a contact us form and then you're hoping that somebody calls you back when they are trying to get this property secured for their landlords. They got landlords sitting there not collecting rent and they want to collect rent. And the sooner they get the tenant together and get all their paperwork together and get them moved in, the better. And so putting a daggone contact us form on your website is terrible customer service for your landlords. So I knew right off the bat this was going to be a problem because I had 3 security deposit insurance companies. And I looked up all 3 of them and only one of them had a phone number. And of the phone number that the one that did have a phone number, I called it. Okay. Because the lady that I was talking to, she's like the receptionist. Like she doesn't really know what's going on when you're talking about this kind of stuff. And so I mean, well, what do they need from us? Because she's thinking in her mind, what kind of form do I need to fill out? Let me just fill it out real quick and send it over, and then you'll be good. And of course, it's not that simple, right? And they're talking about providing insurance. It's an insurance company. It's not gonna be a little 2-page form. Like, you're gonna have to actually provide some documentation, and it's not gonna be able to be filled out by a receptionist. And so she basically responded back to me when I had emailed her the information, saying what information do they require and what's the next steps. Now, of course, I don't know what the next steps are, because they only work with landlords. They don't work with tenants. So it's not like I can call them and go ahead and get insurance and then reach out and be like, call my insurance company for your deposit. That's not how it works. They only work with landlords, because they're trying to get you to like have a contract with them and use their services for all your tenants, right? So I couldn't really tell her. I basically used ChatGPT to ask ChatGPT what they would need. And I told her what they would need and sent her the links, because basically, it was just basically, you're going to have to fill out this contact form and have them call you back. Well, apparently, I'm assuming what happened was it was too complicated for her, and it was something that she couldn't handle. And so she took it to the owner of the property management company, and he called me back, and he was so rude. He was just very curt, like, yeah, this isn't a security deposit. They don't pay the security deposit. They just, they keep it. And I was like, because it was just like, he was talking to me like I didn't know how it worked. I'm like, okay, no, you didn't know how it worked. You assumed that they were going to pay the security deposit for me. And when you found out that wasn't the case, you are giving me the side eye. Like, no, like, and he was like, well, they keep that money. And I was like, yeah, but it would be in an escrow account anyway, right? So you wouldn't keep it either. And he was just like, yeah, but we keep that in our escrow account, and we just keep that until you get ready to move out and you get it back. And so he's going on and explaining to me the process of the security deposit like I'm an idiot. Like, I already know this, like, so it's the mansplaining for me. So I was just like, go back, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that. I'm like, but you wouldn't get to keep it either. So it just basically keeps it to where the tenant does not have to come up with, a large amount of money, and it ensures that you will still get your deposit at move out. And he was like, yeah, but I'm not willing to do that for just one tenant. And I'm just like, I'm rolling my eyes, because I'm just like, yeah, I can understand not doing that for one tenant, but why would you? Why would you not use this opportunity for all of your tenants? Why would you not upgrade your business and allow this option for your tenants? So I didn't say that, and I was just rolling my eyes, because the Lord is working on me. Remember, I was telling you guys that one of the struggles that I have is I've been taught to be incredibly self-sufficient and to do things for myself. Part of that, at least for me, has been that when people say no, I try to persuade them, or try to convince them, or try to give them more information, or, basically try to push. That has been successful for me in a lot of ways and a lot of times. But the Lord is getting me out of that, because it just can be controlling, right? And not in a way like, you're trying to make people do what you want and you don't care what they want, but in a way of you trying to get your will and not recognizing that your will isn't God's will, right? Because a lot of times, if you have to push, it's because you're trying to go through a door that the Lord's not open for you, and he wants you to do something different. And so I've learned that, where it's not that I don't push anymore, it's that I only push if the Lord says to push, right? Because sometimes, that's the case. Sometimes the enemy is just being a douchebag, and you kind of have to push a little and recognize that, he's not going to be able to scare you off just, willy-nilly. He's going to have to do better than that. Sometimes it's just that the Lord is not with you in doing that particular thing, and you might want to just back off. And so throughout this process, that's one of the things that I tried to do, was just really hear God on every single step of the way and only do what the Lord said do. And so his last instruction to me was to apply, and that's what I did.
So there I had that word from God to apply, but that's the last word that I had. And so that's what it's like when you're trying to walk with God. You have the word that he's given you, but you don't know what the next step is until he begins to move, until you begin to see his favor. And so that's one of the things that I will start to look for is, where is his favor? Where is it easy for me to step? Where has the path been made for me? If I'm having to push and I'm having to knock doors down and I'm constantly getting frustrated, then that is an indication that that's not the way that I need to go. And so I'm looking, where's the glory cloud? Where is God moving? And so that is what I'm dealing with here in this part of the story, is that I have that last word from God to apply, but I don't know what the next step is. And so there is that area of frustration sometimes when you're in between, but that's what it really is like walking with God. And so I hope that you guys are able to see that as I am walking through this journey.
How he gets me in the property is up to him, right? And so the security deposit thing is, you have not because you ask not, right? So to not ask, it doesn't hurt to just ask. But when I've asked, I've given them the information, and he's, doesn't want to do it. Okay, now that's a situation for God to handle, right? Because he can certainly change this guy's mind if that's an avenue that he wants to go down, and that's still something that he could do, but he can also go a different route. So he basically was just like, the bottom line is he doesn't want to be bothered with doing that. Okay, so at that point, I then get a call from the lady again, and because he was just so curt and so rude and just like, well, I'm not willing to do that for a tenant. And then I was like, okay, well, I appreciate that. I was talking to, I gave him the lady I was talking to, and, she was going to get back to me on X, Y, and Z other issues, because I had asked her about like the contacts for like getting the, electricity cut on and stuff like that or whatever. And so she was going to get back to me on that. So I was just like, okay, well, I understand. And I was waiting on her to get back to me on blah, blah, blah. So, I'm just going to, go back to, conversing with her and proceeding or whatever. And so before I can even finish what I'm saying, he's just like, yeah, she's here. You need me to talk. I'll transfer you to her. And I was just like, it was like clear that he just wanted to say, no, we're not doing that. Just pay us our money and get off the phone. And it was just like, so it's like back to the frustration. So again, it's like I was saying, the selfishness, right? I'm not trying to help the tenant. I'm not trying to do anything. I just want you to give us your money, and so that we can look good to the landlord that we found a tenant, and we don't really care what you have to go through to try to get in this place, how much money you have to pay. We don't really care. So it's again, the selfishness. So, he transfers me to the other lady. I get, the information I need to get from her. She basically tells me the next steps are I have to pay the security deposit and sign the lease. And then I can pay the first month's rent on the day I move in. Okay, so as it stands, I've set a move-in date with her. And she has sent me the lease. I've not signed the lease. I basically have taken this next mountain to the Lord to say, all right, I don't know how you're planning on handling the security deposit, and I don't know how you're planning on handling the first month's rent, and I also don't know how you're planning on handling me getting utilities cut on, but that's not my problem. That's something that God can handle, and that's that. So that's where I stand right now. He said it's time for me to move, and this is the wealth transfer year. Okay, like I told y'all, I'm beyond ready to move, and I picked the move date several weeks out because, like I said, I don't have, I have to pray for and believe for the amount to even move in. So one mountain at a time. We'll see. But that's where we stand right now. And I'm excited to see what the Lord's going to do. So God bless you. Thank you guys for watching, and God bless you on your journey to freedom.